The dark spaceship hung silently above Earth, hidden by technology that bent light around its metal skin. Inside, alien figures moved with purpose through blue-lit corridors. Their bodies were tall and slender with 4 arms and skin that shimmered. Like oil on water. Commander Kryzat stood at the main viewing window, her large eyes reflecting the blue and green planet below. She had led many research missions across the galaxy, but Earth presented something special, a world with more animal diversity than any they had encountered before. "Begin the survey protocol," she ordered, her voice a musical series of clicks and whistles. "Deploy observation units to all major ecosystems." The science team worked quickly, sending small drone devices down to Earth's surface. These machines, no bigger than birds, could watch without being noticed. Some went to oceans, others to forests, deserts, and ice-covered lands. "Remember," Kryzat told her team, "we are here to observe and record only. The Council wants complete data on this planet's animal life. We must not interfere with natural patterns." Junior scientist Vexler nodded, though his eyes showed excitement. This was his first major expedition since graduating from the Science Academy. The preliminary scans show over 10 million different animal species. It will take months to catalog even a fraction of them. "Then we better get started," Kryzat replied with a gesture that indicated amusement in her culture. On Earth, far below the hidden alien ship, Frank Miller adjusted his camera lens. The early morning light in Wyoming's National Park created perfect conditions for wildlife photography. He had been tracking a wolf pack for 3 days, hoping to capture their hunting behavior. Frank checked his equipment one more time. At 42, he had spent over 20 years photographing animals in their natural habitats. His work appeared in nature magazines around the world, but these wolves were special to him. He had been following this particular pack for almost 5 years. The wolves moved through the tall grass, their gray bodies almost invisible in the morning mist. Frank snapped several pictures, the camera silent so it wouldn't disturb the animals. Through his viewfinder, he noticed something strange. A quick flash of light above the trees, like metal reflecting sunlight. But when he looked directly, nothing was there. Frank frowned. That was the 3rd time this week he had seen unexplained lights while watching animals. He made a note in his journal before returning to his photography. Later that day, Frank showed his photos to Samantha Powell, a park ranger and his friend of many years. "These are amazing, Frank," she said, looking through the images on his camera. "You captured that alpha female perfectly." "Thanks," Frank said, pouring coffee into 2 mugs at the ranger station. "But did you notice anything strange in the park lately? Lights in the sky? Unusual animal behavior?" Samantha smiled and shook her head. "Not this again. First it was Bigfoot tracks, now it's UFOs. I'm serious, Sam," Frank insisted. 3 times. Now I've seen something while photographing the wolves. Like a drone or something watching them. Probably just other photographers, Samantha suggested. "You know how popular this pack has become since your photos were published." Frank wasn't convinced. "Maybe. But why would they leave when I try? To spot them? And the wolves don't react to the lights like they would to a person or normal drone." "Because it's probably just the sun reflecting off your lens," Samantha said, tapping his camera. "Or maybe you need more sleep and less coffee." They both laughed, and their conversation moved to other topics. The upcoming winter, how tourism had affected the park, and Samantha's daughter, who had just started college to study biology. "She wants to save the planet, just like her mom," Samantha said proudly. "The world needs more people who care," Frank replied. "Too many folks these days are disconnected from nature." Unknown to them, one of the alien observation drones hovered silently outside the ranger station window, recording every word and analyzing their behavior. Back on the spaceship, Kryzat and her team reviewed the day's data. The information flowed, and from hundreds of drones showing animals from every corner of Earth. The predator-prey relationships are similar to other worlds we've studied, noted scientist Jixmar, who specialized in ecosystem analysis. But the variety is extraordinary. Look at these ocean predators, such different hunting strategies, yet they've all evolved in the same waters. Vexler was examining the recording from the Wyoming drone. Commander, I think you should see this interaction between two members of the dominant species. Kryzat moved to his station and watched the conversation between Frank and Samantha. What do you find significant? Several things, Vexler said. First, they communicate about events not present, future seasons, offspring in distant locations, abstract concepts like saving the planet. Second, they show awareness that they're being observed, though our technology should be undetectable, to their level of science. And third, they express concern for ecosystem preservation despite not being directly dependent on it for survival. Kryzat considered this. Interesting observations. How do these behaviors compare to other top predator species on the planet? They don't, Jixmar joined in. No other Earth species shows this level of abstract thinking or concern for ecological balance. Most predators simply hunt and survive. Yet these humans have created artificial structures that damage natural systems while simultaneously working to protect those same systems, Vexler added, displaying global data on environmental destruction and conservation efforts. It's contradictory behavior we haven't observed elsewhere. Kryzat's forearms made a gesture of scientific curiosity. Continue focused observation of these humans. They may represent an anomaly worth special study. As night fell over Earth, the alien drones continued their silent watch. In Wyoming, Frank Miller sat outside his cabin, looking up at the stars. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching the animals he photographed, and perhaps watching him too. He checked his camera again, reviewing the day's pictures. In one image of the wolf pack, he noticed a strange blur above the trees. When he zoomed in, the blur seemed to have a shape, curved and metallic. Not a bird, not a plane. Something else. Frank saved the image to show Samantha tomorrow. Maybe she would believe him now. Above him, hidden from human eyes, the alien ship continued its mission. Inside, Kryzat prepared her preliminary report for the Science Council back home. Earth Study, Day 27. Planet shows exceptional biodiversity, with over 10 million animal species identified. Ecological patterns follow standard predator-prey models, with notable efficiency. However, one species, humans, displays behavioral patterns that do not conform to natural survival imperatives. Requesting permission to extend study with focus on this anomalous species. They may represent something unprecedented in our galactic survey. She sent the message, not yet realizing that the discovery on this small blue planet would soon challenge everything her civilization believed about life in the universe. 3 months passed since the Zalaxian ship arrived in Earth orbit. The alien scientists had collected enormous amounts of data on Earth's animals. They watched lions hunt on African plains, whales dive in deep oceans, and birds build complex nests. But more and more, their attention turned to humans. Kryzat stood in the ship's main research chamber, surrounded by floating screens showing human activities from around the planet. Her 4 arms moved gracefully as she organized the information. Humans continue to defy our understanding, she told her team. They are clearly the dominant species, yet they do not behave like dominant species on other worlds. Vexler, who had been promoted to lead the human research team, nodded in agreement. They keep other animals as companions with no practical purpose. They create protected areas where predators cannot be hunted. Some even refuse to eat other animals entirely. Yet they also destroy habitats and cause other species to die out, added Jixmar. They are full of contradictions. On a screen, they watched Dr. Amanda Nguyen walk to the front of a university lecture hall. The hidden drone camera had positioned itself in the back corner of the room, recording everything. Today we'll discuss the complex history of human-animal relationships, Amanda told her students. She was a respected behavioral ecologist who studied how humans interacted with other species throughout history. Humans have a unique position in Earth's ecosystem, she continued. We've domesticated some animals for food and labor, while forming emotional bonds with others. We've driven species to extinction while creating elaborate systems to protect endangered ones. The students took notes as Amanda explained how ancient humans had worshipped animals as gods, then later viewed themselves as having dominion over all creatures. She described modern ethical debates about animal rights and conservation. The question remains, what responsibility do we have toward other species? Is it purely practical, or is there a moral dimension to how we treat the animals we share this planet with? In the Zalaxian ship, the scientists watched with growing confusion. Their understanding of their place in nature is unlike anything we've seen, Kryzat said. They simultaneously act as both part of nature and separate from it. Wexler had been comparing human behavior with the ancient religious texts of their own civilization. Commander, there is a concerning pattern emerging. Explain, Kryzat ordered. Our sacred text, the Celestial Paradigm, describes divine beings as those who stand outside the natural order, who create and destroy based on moral choices rather than survival needs. The parallels to human behavior are striking. Jixmar made a gesture of dismissal. That is primitive superstition, not science. Humans are simply animals with advanced tool use and social structures. Then explain this, Wexler said, displaying another screen showing humans caring for sick animals. In a wildlife rehabilitation center, they expend resources on creatures that offer them no survival advantage. They mourn species they have never encountered when they go extinct. They create art depicting animals they fear. The debate was interrupted by an alert from their ocean monitoring system. In the Pacific Ocean, a human submarine had detected unusual sonar readings near one of their underwater observation posts. Lieutenant Peter Gonzalez frowned at the sonar display inside the U.S. Navy submarine. Something wasn't right about the readings they were getting. Sir, I'm picking up an object that doesn't match any known profile, he told his commander. It's not moving like sea life, and it's too small for another vessel. Natural formation? The commander asked. No, sir. It's emitting some kind of energy signature I've never seen before. The commander looked concerned. Document everything and send a report to headquarters. Don't approach it. Back in Washington, intelligence analyst Olivia Russell received Peter's report. She opened her computer and pulled up similar reports from around the world. Unusual objects spotted near wildlife reserves, strange readings from ocean monitoring stations, unexplained electronic interference in remote natural areas. There's a pattern here, she muttered to herself, pinning locations on a digital map. The sightings all centered around areas with high biodiversity or unusual animal behavior. On the Zalaxian ship, the alert about the submarine detection triggered an emergency meeting. We need to relocate that observation post immediately, Kryzat ordered. Our presence cannot be confirmed by the humans. Why not? Wexler asked boldly. If they truly are what our ancient texts describe, shouldn't we make contact? The suggestion sent shocked whispers through the research team. Direct contact with study subjects violated their most basic scientific protocols. That is not our mission, Kryzat said firmly. We are here to observe and document, not interact. But what if our mission has become something more important? Wexler pressed. What if we have discovered the divine beings our ancestors spoke of? Kryzat's skin changed color slightly, showing her discomfort with the direction of the conversation. Your suggestion borders on religious fanaticism, not scientific inquiry. Science cannot explain everything we've observed about humans, Vexler argued. They create beyond necessity. They preserve beyond utility. They contemplate beyond survival. These are the exact qualities our texts attribute to divine beings. Other scientists began to voice support for Vexler's perspective. Some had been secretly discussing the same possibility for weeks. The idea that humans might be divine beings, according to Zalaxian, religious understanding was spreading among the crew. Kryzat saw she was losing control of her team. We will continue our scientific mission as planned. I'm ordering additional caution with all observation posts. No drone or device should come within detection range of human technology. But later, alone in her private chamber, Kryzat reviewed the human behaviors that troubled her most. She watched recordings of humans risking their lives to save animals. During disasters, she studied human art that imagined worlds that didn't exist. She listened to human music that served no survival purpose but seemed to touch something deeper. She pulled up the text of the celestial paradigm on her personal screen and read the ancient words. The divine ones shall be known by their awareness. Beyond self, their creation beyond need, and their mercy beyond advantage. For the first time in her scientific career, Kryzat felt a sense of something beyond rational explanation. What if Vexler was right? What if humans represented something their civilization had only theorized about in religious terms? The next morning, she made a decision. Expand the human observation program, she told her team. I want dedicated drones following selected human subjects. We need to understand them better. Are we testing Vexler's divine being theory? Jixmar asked cautiously. We are pursuing all possible explanations with proper scientific method, Kryzat replied carefully. But privately, she wondered if science alone could explain what they were witnessing on the blue planet below. The Zalaxian ship hummed with activity as the aliens prepared their new observation plan. Kryzat had ordered special drones designed to blend into human environments. These new machines looked like common Earth objects, streetlights, security, cameras, and even birds. These units will give us much closer access to human activities, Vexler explained to the science team. They can record conversations, analyze emotional responses, and track individual humans for extended periods. Jixmar still looked uncomfortable. This goes beyond our original mission parameters. We were sent to study animal life, not become obsessed with one species. The Council has approved the expanded study, Kryzat said firmly. Humans display behaviors that challenge our understanding of intelligent life. We need more data. The new drones were deployed to major human population center cities where millions of people lived in complex social structures. The aliens watched with growing fascination as humans interacted in ways that seemed impossible according to their evolutionary understanding. On Earth, in Chicago, elementary school teacher Kevin Barnes stood before 28 excited children. The classroom walls were covered with colorful drawings of animals and plants. Today, we're going to start our special project, Kevin told his students. We're going to create a wildlife sanctuary in our schoolyard. A little girl raised her hand. What's a sanctuary, Mr. Barnes? A sanctuary is a safe place, Kevin explained. Animals need places where they can live without being in danger. Even here in the city, we can create a small space that helps birds, insects, and small animals. Why should we help them? Asked a boy near the back. My dad says animals are just animals. Kevin smiled. That's a good question, Jason. Why do you think we should care about other living things? The children offered various answers. Some said because animals were cute. Others mentioned the importance of bees for flowers. One quiet boy said simply, "Because it's the right thing to do." All good answers. Kevin nodded. Part of being human is caring for the world around us, even when it doesn't directly benefit us. We have the power to help or harm, and that gives us responsibility. In the corner of the classroom, disguised as a clock, a Zalaxian drone recorded everything. It analyzed the children's brain patterns as they discussed abstract concepts like responsibility, morality, and the future. Back on the ship, Jixmar watched the classroom recording with growing concern. The young humans are being taught values that go beyond survival. They discuss helping other species as a moral imperative, not a practical one. Exactly, Vexler said excitedly. Look at how they conceptualize time. They plan actions now, for benefits that will come long after they are dead. They imagine future generations they will never meet. Kryzat had been reviewing data from multiple observation points. The evidence is becoming difficult to ignore. Humans exhibit 5 key behaviors that our science cannot explain through evolution alone. She displayed a list on the main screen. They alter their environment not just for survival, but for beauty and meaning. They preserve knowledge across generations through non-biological means. They show compassion toward other species and even inanimate objects. They contemplate their own existence and mortality. They sacrifice individual welfare for abstract concepts. All of these behaviors match what our ancient texts describe as divine attributes. Vexler said softly, even the skeptical. Jixmar couldn't deny the patterns. But if this is true, it changes everything about our understanding of the universe. A small group of Zalaxian crew members had begun meeting in their off-duty hours to discuss the religious implications of their discoveries. Led by Vexler, they read passages from the celestial paradigm and compared them with human behaviors. Our ancestors spoke of beings who could see beyond the veil of immediate existence, Vexler told the group. Isn't that exactly what humans do when they create art or music, or when they preserve wilderness they will never visit? The religious movement grew quietly among the crew. Some began to view their scientific mission as something more profound, a sacred journey to study divine beings. Meanwhile, at NASA's space monitoring facility, scientist Maria Foster noticed something unusual in the data from Earth's orbit. "Daniel, can you look at these readings?" she asked her colleague. "I'm picking up energy signatures that don't match any known satellites." Daniel Johnson rolled his chair over to her station and studied the screen. "That's strange. The pattern doesn't fit any technology I'm familiar with. And look at the positioning. It's not in any standard orbit." "Could it be space debris?" Maria suggested. "Not moving like that," Daniel shook his head. "Whatever it is, it's actively maintaining its position and occasionally changing location. That requires propulsion. So what are we looking at? A secret military satellite?" Daniel frowned. "I don't think so. The energy signature is like nothing in our database." Maria started typing rapidly. "I'm going to run a tracking algorithm to see if there's any pattern to its movements." After several minutes, the computer displayed a map showing the mystery object's positions over the past month. The locations corresponded with major wildlife reserves, migration routes, and biodiversity hotspots. "That's weird," Daniel said. "It's like whatever this is, it's watching animals. Or studying them," Maria added quietly. On the Zalaxian ship, an alert sounded in the monitoring section. "Commander, we have a problem," the technician reported. "Human scientists have detected our energy signature. They're tracking our movements." Kryzat's skin darkened with concern. "How sophisticated is their analysis?" "They've identified our interest in wildlife areas, but haven't determined our nature or purpose yet." "Implement emission masking protocol," Kryzat ordered. "Vary our position more randomly." We cannot risk direct detection, but the situation was growing more complicated. As human awareness of unusual phenomena increased, Kryzat faced a difficult decision. The scientific value of their observations was extraordinary, but the risk of discovery grew daily. In her private chamber, Kryzat reviewed all the evidence about human behavior. The similarities to their religious texts' description of divine beings were undeniable. Even as a scientist committed to rational explanation, she couldn't ignore the pattern. What if humans truly were what her people had always described as divine? Not gods in a simplistic sense, but beings who transcended the basic imperatives of biological life, creatures who created, preserved, and contemplated in ways that defied evolutionary explanation. If true, this discovery would transform Zalaxian civilization forever. Their religious texts would be validated. Their understanding of their place in the universe would shift dramatically. Kryzat made her decision. She would continue the mission, but with a new purpose: to determine, with scientific rigor, whether humans truly fit the divine criteria described in their most sacred texts. The implications were enormous, and the danger of discovery was real. But some questions were too important to leave unanswered. Tension grew aboard the Zalaxian ship as the crew divided into three distinct groups. The empiricists, led by Jixmar, insisted humans were just highly evolved animals. The divinists, led by Vexler, believed humans represented the divine beings described in Zalaxian scripture. A small third group, the interventionists, pushed for direct contact with humans. "We cannot continue this way," Kryzat told her senior officers during an emergency meeting. "Our mission requires unity of purpose. The evidence supports a divine interpretation," Vexler argued. "Humans create art with no survival purpose. They risk their lives for abstract concepts like freedom. They preserve knowledge for future generations they will never meet." Jixmar waved all four arms in frustration. "These behaviors can be explained through complex social evolution. Nothing divine is required." "Then explain this," Vexler displayed. "A recording of humans at a funeral, mourning a dead person. They honor their dead with rituals. They believe in existence beyond physical life. Our sacred texts specifically list this as a divine attribute." The debate grew heated. Junior Officer Tazvik, who had quietly joined the interventionist faction, spoke up unexpectedly. "This theoretical debate misses the point," Tazvik said. "If humans are divine beings, we have a sacred duty to learn from them directly. Our ancestors would have seen this as a holy opportunity. Direct contact violates our most basic scientific protocols," Kryzat reminded everyone. "We are observers, not participants." But the seeds of division had been planted. As the meeting ended without resolution, Kryzat worried about losing control of her mission and her crew. On Earth, strange animal behavior was drawing attention. In a Montana nature reserve, wildlife biologist Greg Patterson noticed something unusual about the local wolf pack. "They're moving with a purpose I've never seen before," Greg told meteorologist Stacy Williams as they hiked through the forest. Greg and Stacy had been friends since college and often worked together on field research. "What do you mean?" Stacy asked, adjusting her backpack. "Normally, wolves move based on hunting patterns, territory defense, or pack dynamics," Greg explained. "But this pack has been circling this same 5-mile area for 3 days, almost like they're guarding something." Stacy looked skeptical. "Could be a hidden den or food cache." "I've checked. There's nothing obvious attracting them." Greg pointed to a ridge ahead. "Let's set up observation equipment there and watch them overnight." As evening approached, Greg and Stacy set up their small tent and positioned cameras and sensors around the area. The wolves continued their unusual patrol pattern below. "I'm getting strange electromagnetic readings," Stacy said, checking a handheld device, "almost like a low-level broadcast." Greg frowned. "From where?" "Hard to pinpoint. It seems to be coming From that clearing, the wolves keep circling. They decided to investigate before darkness fell. As they approached the clearing, the wolves watched from a distance but didn't intervene. In the center of the open space, partially hidden by tall grass, they found something that didn't belong in a Montana forest. "What is that?" Stacy whispered, kneeling beside a small metallic object shaped like a flattened sphere. Greg carefully brushed away the surrounding grass. "It looks technological, but not like any equipment I've seen before." The object had a smooth surface with no visible buttons or openings. It emitted a faint humming sound and occasionally flickered with dim blue light. "Government research equipment?" Stacy suggested. "Out here, unmarked, with no warning signs or fencing?" Greg shook his head. "Not likely." Curiosity overcoming caution, Greg touched the object. Immediately, it began to pulse with brighter light. Before they could react, a small compartment opened, revealing intricate technology unlike anything they had seen before. "We should call someone," Stacy said nervously. "Wait," Greg replied, examining the device more closely. "I think it's some kind of camera or sensor. Look at these lens-like structures." Making a bold decision, Greg picked up a nearby rock and struck the device firmly. The light flickered and died as the object stopped humming. On the Zalaxian ship, alarms blared through the monitoring section. "Observation Unit 47 has been disabled," the technician reported urgently. "Humans have discovered and damaged it." Kryzat rushed to the control room. "Show me the final transmission." The screen displayed Greg and Stacy examining the drone before. It went dark. "This is a serious breach of protocol," Jixmar said. "We must withdraw from Earth immediately. Our presence has been detected." "I disagree," Vexler countered. "This could be the sign we've been waiting for. The divine beings have found our technology. Perhaps they are inviting contact." The debate quickly spread throughout the ship. The empiricists demanded immediate withdrawal to protect scientific integrity. The divinists saw the discovery as a meaningful event, perhaps even divinely guided. In the chaos of the debate, no one noticed Junior Officer Tazvik and 3 other interventionists slipping away to the secondary shuttle bay. "Are we really doing this?" asked one of Tazvik's companions. "Our ancestors searched the stars for divine beings," Tazvik replied, preparing the small craft for launch. "Now we've found them. This is the most important moment in our civilization's history. We cannot simply observe from a distance. The commander will punish us severely," another worried. "Some things are worth the risk," Tazvik said, activating the shuttle's engines. Back in the Montana forest, Greg and Stacy had returned to their camp with the disabled alien device. They examined it by firelight, trying to make sense of its construction. "This is definitely not human technology," Greg said quietly. "The materials, the design, it's beyond anything I've seen." "You're not suggesting—" "I don't know what I'm suggesting," Greg interrupted. "But whatever this is, it was watching the animals. Remember all those news reports about unusual animal behavior around the world? What if they're all connected to devices like this?" Stacy looked up at the night sky. "So someone or something is studying Earth's wildlife. But why?" "Maybe they're scientists like us," Greg suggested, "just trying to understand different species." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden bright light from above. The trees around their camp swayed as a blast of wind hit them. Looking up, they saw a small craft descending toward the clearing where they had found the device. "Oh my God," Stacy whispered, grabbing Greg's arm. The craft, about the size of a small car, settled gently on the ground. Its surface shimmered with an otherworldly metal. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hiss, a door opened in the side of the vehicle. A tall, slender figure emerged. It had 4 arms and skin that seemed to shift colors in the moonlight. Its large eyes reflected the firelight as it looked directly at Greg and Stacy. The humans stood frozen, unable to process what they were seeing. The alien being took a few steps forward, then did something unexpected. It lowered itself to the ground in what appeared to be a bow. When it spoke, the sound was strange, clicks and musical tones, but somehow Greg and Stacy understood the words in their minds. "Divine ones," said Tasvik, trembling with religious awe, "we have studied your domain. We seek your wisdom." News of the alien encounter spread quickly. Despite government efforts to keep it secret, videos of Tasvik kneeling before Greg and Stacy appeared online. Within days, people around the world knew that aliens had come to Earth and, strangely, seemed to worship humans. In Washington, D.C., officials from NASA, the military, and the White House met in an emergency session. The president had ordered a calm, measured response to prevent panic. "What do we know about their technology and capabilities?" asked a general. "Their ship appears to use some form of energy we don't fully understand," a NASA scientist explained. "They can make themselves invisible to most of our detection systems. Based on this, they're clearly far more advanced than us. Yet they're treating humans like gods," the Secretary of State said, sounding confused. "Why would such an advanced species do that?" On the Zalaxian ship, chaos reigned. Tasvik's unauthorized contact had thrown their entire mission into crisis. "We have no choice now," Kryzak told the Science Council during an emergency transmission. "The humans know of our existence. We must establish formal diplomatic contact to prevent misunderstandings." The Council reluctantly agreed. "Proceed with caution, Commander. This situation is unprecedented." Kryzak assembled a team that included both empiricists and divinists. They would meet with human representatives and explain their presence. Chixmar and Vexler both joined the delegation, still arguing about human nature, even as they prepared to meet them face to face. 3 days later, at a secure facility in Nevada, the first official meeting between humans and Zalaxians took place. A human delegation was led by diplomat Carol Beck and anthropologist Albert Monroe. They sat across from Kryzak and her team at a long table. "On behalf of Earth, we welcome you," Corral began. "We have many questions about your presence here and your interest in our planet." Kryzak's translator device converted her musical speech into English. "We came to study Earth's animal life. Your planet has more biodiversity than any world we have discovered. But as we observed, we became fascinated by humans specifically." Albert leaned forward. "We understand one of your people referred to humans as divine ones. Can you explain this?" Kryzak glanced at Vexler, who stepped forward eagerly. "In our oldest religious texts, there are descriptions of beings who exist beyond the natural order. Beings who create without necessity, preserve without immediate benefit, and contemplate their own existence. Humans match these descriptions perfectly." The human delegates exchanged surprised looks. "You believe we're gods?" Carol asked carefully. "Not in a simplistic sense," Vexler explained. "But according to our understanding of divinity, yes. You create art that serves no survival purpose. You risk your lives for abstract concepts. You preserve knowledge for generations yet unborn. These are divine attributes in our belief system." Albert shook his head slowly. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. Humans aren't divine beings. We're just animals who developed complex brains and social structures. We make mistakes constantly," Carol added. "We fight wars. We damage our own planet. We often fail to live up to our own moral standards." The Zalaxians listened with growing confusion. Chixmar looked triumphant, while Vexler seemed deeply troubled. "You deny your divine nature?" Vexler asked. "We don't have a divine nature to deny," Albert said gently. "We're just trying to figure things out, like everyone else in the universe, apparently." This simple statement created a profound crisis among the Zalaxians. Their entire understanding of the cosmos had been built around the idea that divine beings might exist somewhere in the universe. Now, the very creatures who matched their divine descriptions rejected the label. Back on the Zalaxian ship that evening, the crew struggled with this new information. Some, like Jixmar, felt vindicated in their skepticism. Others, like Vexler, faced a spiritual crisis. Kryzat found Vexler alone in the observation deck, staring down at Earth. "You seem troubled," she said. "Everything I believed has been questioned," Vexler replied. "If humans are not divine, yet they match all our sacred descriptions of divinity, what does that mean? Were our ancestors wrong? Or have we misunderstood something fundamental?" Kryzat considered this carefully. "Perhaps divinity is not what we thought it was. Our texts speak of beings who transcend their nature, who create beyond necessity, who contemplate beyond survival. Humans do all these things, yet they do not consider themselves divine. What if that's precisely the point?" Vexler said suddenly. "What if divinity isn't about perfection or power, but about the struggle to transcend one's nature? Humans create beauty while causing destruction. They contemplate the cosmos while often missing what's right in front of them. They are full of contradictions. Like all conscious beings," Kryzat added. Seeing where this line of thought led Dot the next day, the discussions between humans and Zalaxians continued. This time, the humans shared their philosophy, art, and science. They explained their long struggle to understand their place in the universe. Kryzat listened with growing excitement as she realized the truth. It wasn't that humans were divine beings, as the Zalaxians had imagined. Rather, the capacity for transcending one's nature, for creating, preserving, and contemplating beyond. The demands of survival might be a universal quality of advanced consciousness. As the formal meetings concluded, both species agreed to ongoing cultural exchange. The Zalaxians would share their technology and knowledge of the galaxy, while humans would share their philosophy, art, and unique perspective. In Wyoming, Frank Miller waited nervously at his cabin. Kryzat had requested a private meeting with the wildlife photographer whose photos had first captured their attention months ago. When the Zalaxian commander arrived, Frank showed her his lifetime collection of wildlife photography. "You've spent your life observing and documenting other species," Kryzat noted. "Just as we do," Frank nodded. "I've always felt connected to the animals I photograph, like we're all part of the same great mystery." "That's what we've learned from humans," Kryzat said. "The greatest divine attribute may not be perfection, but the ability to see connection where others see separation, to create meaning in a universe that offers none inherently." She picked up a photo showing a wolf caring for its pups. "We came looking for animal behaviors, but found something we didn't expect, the reflection of our own search for meaning." Frank smiled. "Maybe that's what makes all thinking beings a little divine. Not that we have all the answers, but that we keep asking the questions." As the Zalaxian ship prepared to depart Earth a week later, many crew members had transformed their understanding of divinity. They would return often to continue learning from humans, not as worshippers seeking gods, but as fellow travelers in the cosmic search for meaning. And humans, knowing they were not alone in the universe, looked to the stars with new eyes, not as gods, but as creatures who, in all their imperfection, had somehow touched something profound in beings from another world.